All right, folks. Tonight, what I want to do again, I want to try to keep this as brief as I can, which for me sometimes is a challenge. But I want to share with you the history, the origins of Halloween, and then I want to give you three reasons why I take the stand in the position that I do concerning Halloween itself. Now, listen, this is my conviction on it. It may not be your conviction. You have the right to your opinion, just as I have the right to my opinion. But I have stood on this view for 20 years, and I will stand on it until the day that I take my last breath. That's how strong I feel about and against celebrating Halloween as a Christian because of what it represents. Now, having said that, as a pastor of Mount Zion, there will never be a time that we associate nor celebrate Halloween. Um, I've never done it in the church. I've been in a few other churches, and I battled in one church specifically about this matter of Halloween. And took my stand, and I stood firmly on that. I did not bow, bend, nor break, nor will I hear. Having said that, there is on Marketplace, there's a page, and it's called Out and About in Hardin County. And the lady that does that, very nice lady. I had talked to her through Messenger, but Martha had reached out to Destiny and said, "Hey, Destiny, your dad and they want to see this." And our harvest festival we had, they took our flyer and they put our flyer on the harvest festival, and then they had two others right beside it in the same picture, and it was trunk or treat and another Halloween thing. And so Destiny reached out to me, and I reached out to this lady, and I was very nice and very polite. And I said to her, I said, "Listen, I appreciate what you do. I think it's great getting the word about what goes on in the community and all that." And I explained to her very nicely that, um, as a pastor, as a believer, I don't want to associate with trunk or treat. I don't want to associate with Halloween, any of the above. I said, "I hope you understand." Lady was very nice, very polite. She understood. She removed it from the post. Now, as I have been studying this over 20 years probably, and for the last couple of weeks again, just to refreshing things up, I've done a lot of research from different resources, from websites, History Channel, documentaries, podcasts, etc. One of the podcasts that I had listened to, Real Christianity, is where I get a lot of stuff that I talk about tonight because he had such valid and good points. I want to share some of that with you. So, if you've heard this podcast, you may hear some things that I'll talk to you about again tonight. But having said that, let's look at where it originated, and then I want to share with you three reasons why I believe that as Christians, we should not participate in this holiday called Halloween. So, where did Halloween originate? Well, it originated in the ancient Celtic festival called Samhain. And what we find that is, it's simply this: it's a celebration of things uh, that are dying for that year. So when I say that, you think about now. We look about what's going on out. The leaves are falling, they're changing, everything. Nature, everything in nature is dying, right? We think about the farmers and the crops. What are they doing? They've already harvested their crops, they've taken them in, and all the above. So now it's a preparation for winter to begin. This happened in the 9th century. It happened in Ireland, it happened in England, it happened in northern France. So that was a big celebration every year. It's based and it's deep in Celtic grooves. And we'll talk a little bit about more of that here in a few minutes. But happened in the 9th century. If you back up 100 years in the 8th century, you're going to find out a little connection with Halloween and the Roman Catholic Church. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November the 1st as All Saints' Day. Now, if you grew up in the Catholic Church or you are familiar with any of the Catholic Church, you have heard All Saints' Day. Most of you have probably heard that at some point in your life. Now, due to the proximity of Halloween, due to the proximity of All Saints' Day, what happened was it kind of got incorporated with the two. So the tradition of Samhain and the evening before All Saints' Day became known as All Hallows Day or All Hallows Eve, and it later was called Halloween. So what do we know? Eventually, Halloween separated itself from All Saints Day and All Hallows Day, and it became a day upon itself, which is October the 31st, is when we celebrate it. Now, Halloween has become a mythological culture, and it's believed upon this night. Again, remember mythology. It's believed upon this night that it released the spirits from the dead when they controlled nature. And what happened in the previous months up until this night, they were held captive under all the vegetation. So upon this night, mythology book says that they come alive. The dead spirits come out, they control nature, they control things, and they just wreak havoc, so to speak. Now, with the Celtic Druids, this night was a big night for them. It's the most celebrated time of the year. In fact, if you look at research from History Channel and the culture of the European culture, you'll find out fascinating to me a lot of things. But one of the things that just kind of blew my mind is upon this night, because they celebrate it in the sense that they do, they actually have human sacrifices back then. And what they would do is they would look for a criminal. If there was a criminal, that was the guy, or the girl that they would sacrifice. If they couldn't find a criminal, if you do the history and the research, you're going to see they just find somebody. Say, okay, you're the one we're sacrificing tonight. So the Celtic Druids, which is where all this originated, they took this very seriously. So here's what we got. Mythology says that the spirits raise from the dead and they come out at night, right? And during this time period, what the people would do, and this is kind of where Halloween originated, what they would do to try to protect themselves from the fear and the horror of the spirits, they would take and they would put pastries and treats out upon their porch. And what they believed this did, it protected them from the spirits coming in and bothering them or terrifying them or scaring them or whatever the thing was. And one thing they ended up doing was that they would dress up, some of them would dress up in costumes. And they would dress up in costumes and they would walk the streets. So they thought in their mind, because of all this mythology, that if they did that, they would mingle with the spirits and the spirits would leave them alone. They couldn't differentiate from those dressed in costumes and or the spirit. So that was something that they did. Now we think about trick-or-treating. Trick-or-treating began as souling. And what that is, that children would go from door to door and they would take soul cakes, it was referred to as. They would sing and they would say prayers for the dead. Now I want you to think about what I said earlier. I didn't go into it a lot, but with Roman Catholics, what do? They pray for the dead, right? So again, you see the intertwining of Roman Catholicism, and you see Halloween. Fascinating this week as I studied and looked at some podcasts of Roman Catholic priests and their belief system on Halloween. I'm blown away by it. But that's their choice. That's their right. They have it just like I have mine to stand here tonight and share with you what I found in my research. So again, we think about Halloween, and historically speaking, it's a night when people would put up big bonfires. They would have big bonfires, and what they would do with these bonfires, they would dress up in costumes. And the whole idea was that as all this fire blowing and going and all that, and them dressed in costumes, it would literally scare the demons away, scare the dead spirits away. But what happened with the Druids, they ended up having bonfires, and they would literally have seances. They would really try to speak to the dead, that type thing. And they would welcome the dead as well during these bonfires. That's just how it was in the European culture, in the Celtic European culture. So there is a summation of Halloween. Now, I would recommend this. Do some research on it. Because before the night's up, I'm going to give you thoughts on this, and I'm going to give you some scriptures and the reasons why that I don't celebrate it, nor have I ever. I want you to think about something. My children never, ever, that I remember, went trick-or-treating. Not one time. And you say, well, that's just not a good parent. Well, That's your opinion. You know, you got your opinion, you got your right if your children go trick or treating or not. But the reason I did what I did because I've done my research, I've done my study. My conviction is that my child, I want to protect them from what I considered to be overtly demonic, what I consider to be evil, what I consider to be dark, what I consider to be death. I said, no, they're not going to do it. And you know, here's the thing about it. If you ask my daughter today, you know what she's going to say? I didn't miss nothing. You know why she didn't miss it? Because she never did it. Right? I mean, it's just that simple. Again, as a parent, that's your choice. And I'm not standing up here tonight, and I want to make this clear. I'm not standing up here tonight saying you're a bad parent if you take your child trick or treat. Because here's the reality. Verbatim, I don't see anywhere in this Bible that says, do not celebrate Halloween. I don't. So understand that tonight. I'm not condemning you if you have let your children trick or treat. I'm not condemning you if you take your children trick or treating. But what I am going to do is bring some observations to you from the scripture of what I believe and why I believe what I do. I'm going to back it up with text as I always do. So that was a Celtic European culture. Now let's fast forward to today. Halloween has evolved. I mean, it has evolved, especially here in the West, into activities and what we found and what you will see in our day and time, that we continue to water down this holiday that the Celtic Druids consider the most important day of the year to them, what Satanists consider the most important day to them. And we think about this, and what has it done? We think about trick or treating. We think about carving pumpkins. We think about dressing kids up. We think about taking them from door to door. We think about trunk or treat. But Halloween still very much holds a spiritual root. And to me, it's becoming more and more obvious as we think about culture, we think about society. Now, let's get to the question. Told you I'm doing this in 30 minutes. That's my goal. Running through here. Roll Tide. Let me get that in there. Oh, they didn't. Yeah, they got rolled. Yeah, they got rolled. Hey, you better watch it. I'll kick you out of here. Well, you ain't going to be a guest long. You talk like that. No. Oh, okay. See, done got rid of him. I preach 1 week and he leaves. That's just how it works. Oh. So the question tonight is, and what we're talking about is, should Christians celebrate Halloween? Now, as I think about this word celebrate, I think it's important. Now, I'm going to show you my English expertise here that's horrible. The word celebrate is a verb. I've got a teacher in here, so I better be right on this. The word celebrate is a verb, and the definition is to acknowledge a particular event with social praise. So think about that. To acknowledge a particular event with social praise. My question is, should we celebrate Halloween? Should we acknowledge this event with social praise? So, in other words, when I think about celebration, that being the definition, is celebration not also affirmation? Is celebration not saying, you know, I agree with this if I celebrate this? Now, so as Christians, I think we personally need to be careful what we celebrate. Philippians 4:8 tells us this. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good report, if there is any virtue, if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Now, I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to really let this statement sink in. Anton LaVey, he is the founder of the Church of Satan. Anton LaVey is also the gentleman who wrote the Satanic Bible. In an interview many, many years ago, he said these words. He said, I am glad that Christian parents allow their children to worship the devil at least one night of the year. I want to say that again. Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, the author of not this Bible, the Satanic Bible, in an interview, his words, I am glad Christian parents allow their children to worship the devil at least one night of the year. So think about that statement that he said. He is a Satanist. He's the founder of the Church of Satan. It is demonic. It is evil. It is all of that. He looks at Christians when we celebrate Halloween and he goes, look at there. There they are. They celebrating my Lord, my devil, my Savior, ever how they consider him. So we have to be careful what we celebrate. So the reality is, from his point of view, and from many people's point of view, Halloween is viewed as a satanic holiday by Satan. John Ramirez is a gentleman, and I can't go because I'm going to run out of time. But John Ramirez, if you get a chance, look him up. He was a former Satanist priest for 25 years. And now he's a follower of Christ, and he preaches and he teaches about the Church of Satan and the demonic side of it. It's fascinating. Now, I will say this, if you look him up, there's some things that he said that I'm suspect on, and I'm just going to say one so when you hear it. He said that he had died and he'd went to hell, and he was not sure how long he was there, if it was 25 minutes or 30 minutes. So when he went and said that, I said, man, come on, dude, red flag, boom. So that's my position on it, okay? So he's still worth listening to because he's experienced and he's been in that realm of the Satanic Church. So its roots are deeply demonic. Its activities, there's no way the activities are redemptive at all. Zero. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons tonight why I believe we shouldn't celebrate Halloween. First principle is this, because Halloween is a celebration of death. Because Halloween is a celebration of death. Again, I talked about that being social praise. So when you and I, we think about this and we go out everywhere in society and we see, we go into Lowe's, we go into Home Depot. I went into Zaxby's 2 weeks ago up here in Shepherdsville. And when I walked in Zaxby's, you know what I saw? I saw morbid illustrations. I saw skeletons. I saw death. I saw all of these things. I mean, anywhere you go just about in a store in society right now, you can see something about Halloween. You can see something that depicts death, horror, morbid illustrations, and the like. You can go about in any county, any state, and you're going to find what? A haunted house. I mean, I think that's safe to say. You can go, we've got here local, we've got a field of screams or dreams or what, not dreams, or screams. I guess it would be better fitting for Halloween than dreams, but we've got one here local. I know the guy, I know the owner. As a matter of fact, I see all that hair I got, he cut my hair today. And by the way, he goes, man, you took a little gap out there, didn't you, preacher? Yes, sir, I did. I said, well, I couldn't get to you for 2 weeks, so I got to do something, man. He said, let me do that next time. I said, yes, sir. But anyway, plural, I do that sometimes. However, back to this. Society, we see it everywhere. Horror movies this time of year, aren't they popular? I mean, you go on Netflix, you go on Apple, you go on Amazon Prime, whatever. I mean, it is just cultivated in Halloween movies, in horror, in death, in fear. I mean, all of that, the appetite is cultivated right now. I think about Halloween, and it's really a night that elevates what? Death, horror, fear, nuisance. I mean, all the above. Michael, I reckon Michael's still alive in Halloween. I don't know if any of y'all know that movie from years ago. I think that dude's still alive, but we'll see. So let's do this. Let's look at it from this perspective. And here's been my thought. Are we as parents saying to our children that death, horror, evil is something they should be comfortable with? Now think about it. I'm talking about children when we first bring them up, 4, 5, 6 years old, whatever. Are we saying that's something they should be comfortable with? Because this time of season, if you think about it, that's really what it's teaching our kids. You can become comfortable with death. You can become comfortable with evil. I mean, there's skeletons, there's death, there's gore, there's horror. I mean, today, some of these people really make Michael look bad. I mean, some of the costumes that I've seen. So here's the problem with all this. It's a distortion of God's image. I mean, it really is. And he seemingly was harmless to dress your child up in a costume and take them trick-or-treating or go to haunted house. But what happens is this. The environment, those markers that they may seem as normal, and they're taught from a young child, as they mature and that child grows, does that desire for something else not grow as well? Because you started this child out and you say this death is okay, this horror is okay, this fear is okay. And so if it's okay, it must be all right. And then it grows as they get older. And what do we know about movies? Movies demonstrate evil. It's all over the place, right? Murder, torture, death. They find a significant placement in this narrative. In other words, I'm going to say it like this, and here's how I've got it. If you're comfortable with a playful form of human perversion and degradation in your childhood, then you'll eventually become comfortable with a less playful form of it later in life. You say, Mike, you're taking it too far. You stepped over the edge. Now, you're saying if they participate in this death and horror and Halloween, that it could go somewhere else in life. Here's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying this. What you put in your child's mind is what that child's going to know. If that child, you look at that child and you say, you know what, this is okay, and that child believes that's okay. You say that's not good, that child's going to believe that's not good. I will never forget the advice that I gave Dylan one day that a man, very wise man, gave me years ago. You got to understand, I mean, I had a first child, Destiny, and as soon as she was born, we had to rush her from Florence Hospital to Huntsville Hospital, about an hour and a half away. And so we take her there, and they've got her hooked up on everything. And I'll never forget standing there looking at my little newborn, 1 day old, and they've got everything hooked up to her, just the whole shooting match. And I'm standing there, and here's old, I was still a rebel, long hair, earring wearing fella. And I mean, the old pastor walks up to me, J.D. Norris, and he put his arm around me. And he said these words to me. And they are so clear even today to me. He said, Mike, he said, you see this little girl? He goes, right now her mind is pure. He said, what you put in her mind is what she's going to know. If you put good in her mind, she'll know good. If you put evil in her mind, she will know evil. And what he was really saying, and what I'm trying to say to you is, what we put in our children's mind as acceptable and unacceptable is what they're going to know as they get older. I'm a firm believer in train your child up in the way they should go. When they get old, they'll not depart from it. And that's the case with drugs, right? And other things, right? So, or any other form of evil. So, when we think about everything that I just said, because I want to give you some information, the NCBI, National Center for Biotech, Information for Biotech Center, information. They showed an obvious link between horror movies and suicidal behavior, including suicidal ideations, hopelessness, self-harm, low life satisfaction. Now, that's from a study that they did. Now, I want you to think about something when we think about this. I personally know people that grew up in environments that I'm going to refer to as just not good. And I can't share any accounts or stories, but here's the reality. There have been those who have brought up and all they saw was horror, all they saw was death, all they saw was evil. They didn't have any self-esteem, none of the above, and they grew up and they have faced depression, suicidal thoughts, behaviors that are not becoming of anything. I mean, I know several people like this, and it's because of the way they were brought up. So we have to be careful what we put in our minds, what we put in the mind of our children, what we bring them up in, that's what they're going to know, right? So, my question is, why would we want to place our children in the environment or an annual tradition that nurtures a desire for an infinity of fear? I mean, why would we want to do that? Why would we want to place our child in that environment? So, here's the thing. As Christians, we don't celebrate death, right? I mean, we don't. I don't wake up. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and go, man, I can't wait. I'm just not. We don't do that. We don't celebrate death. Now, what do we know about physical death? Physical death is the enemy and it's the cost of sin. We understand that. We also know that when we die as a believer, you know, we welcome death from that perspective because we know we're going to go to a place called heaven. But physical death is not something we celebrate. We celebrate life. Now, I want you to think about Christ. Christ came to conquer death on the cross, right? We don't celebrate what Christ came to conquer. Hebrews 2:14. I'm going to give you some scripture now real quick. Hebrews 2:14. Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power over death, that is the devil. Revelation 1, latter part of 17, verse 18 says, fear not, I am the first and the last of the living one. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I have the key of death and Hades. So Christ came to conquer death. And through our faith in him, guess what? We also conquer death. So to celebrate what cost Christ so much, are we actually seeing the own value of salvation when we celebrate death? So second observation, quickly. Not only is it a celebration of death, but it's also a celebration of darkness. Of darkness. Okay, so we think about darkness. I'm going to look at a few verses real quick, and I'm going to give them to you, and they all tie into darkness. And then I'm going to say something. Ephesians 5:11. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but what? Rather expose it. I think about 1 John 1:5. This is the message we have heard from him and proclaim to you that God is light, and in him is what? No darkness at all. 1 John 1:7. But if we walk in the light as he is light, we have fellowship with one another. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. John 8:12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. Two more. John 12:46. I have come into the world as light, so that whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. 1 John 1:4 and 5. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in darkness. The darkness has not overcome it. So here's my point in all of this. And it's not, I'm not trying to take things out of context. I'm trying to show you that light and darkness don't mean. Light and darkness do not jihad, is how I'm going to say it. That's my point in reading those passages. Now, Christians love light, right? We love light first and foremost. And what do we know about light? It stands against spiritual darkness. None of us like darkness, really, if you think about it. So am I going to go down the alley of Louisville at night at 2 o'clock in the morning in a dark alley? I would prefer to walk down that alley when it was light, right? I mean, I'm not going to do that, so I don't want to participate in that darkness. What do we know? We know that the devil distinguishes himself as what? An angel of light. We know he's the prince of darkness. So, we need to understand this. Our sensitivity and awareness to darkness should not change because it's a holiday on a calendar. I want you to think about that. Our sensitivity and our awareness of darkness should not change because it's a holiday on a calendar. But the reality is, it does. So let me ask you a couple quick questions, and we'll move on to the last one real quick. Would you participate in these traditions of Halloween if it was every day of the year? I mean, every day, would you get up and you dress your kid in a costume, take them trick-or-treating and all that? I'm going to say probably the reality is no. Then why would you even set aside a day one time of the year to celebrate who Anton Levy says Christians allow their children to worship the devil at least one night of the year. Observation number 3. And lastly and quickly. Halloween is a celebration of evil. All right, I have got to say something right now. I am not saying, make sure that thing is recorded. I am not saying that non-Christians and Christians alike have Halloween celebrations that are overtly evil. I'm not saying because you go to your little gathering of Halloween that you go with intentions of it being evil. I am not saying that. Is everybody in here clear? Everybody awake right now? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying if you're a Christian or a non-Christian. I know and I have to believe that not everyone goes with intentional purposes of going, well, I'm going to worship the devil tonight. Worship the devil tonight. That's not the case. That's not reality. Now, here's the reality is there are those that do that. But I have to believe those under the sound of my voice and sitting here tonight, if you participate in it, that's not why you do it. You have your reasoning for doing it. But I am saying this, that Halloween is specifically rooted in evil and generally elevates the things that the Scripture say do not elevate. Think about it. That's what Halloween does. Death, evil, darkness, Satan's, church of Satan. I mean, just the list goes on. I consider and keep talking about that. So think about what 1 Thessalonians 5:22 says. It says these simple words. Abstain from every form of evil. What does Halloween celebrate? Evil. What does it represent? Evil, darkness, death. Now, I know that many Christian parents struggle with this. From viewing Halloween as evil. And here's the reality, I've already said, you have the right to choose whether you allow your children to do that or not. But I just want to remind you of the mental and the emotional faculties available for them to discern that moment. They're not an adult. They can't look at that person that's dressed up like Michael or that ghost or whatever and go, is that real, when you take them out for the first time, right? I mean, they can't. As adults, we are able to discern the two. But here's the thing. A lot of parents miss it. It's the informative moments during these times that gives that child a visual image of what they see. And what that visual image is of what they see is what they're going to remember. The first time, that first moment you see something, wow. If it's fear, if it's scared, whatever. Now here's the thing. Dylan is terrified of spiders. I've used him a few times tonight. Dylan is terrified of spiders, y'all. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, and I'm going to try to get him to watch this. He screams like a, can I say? Yeah, he screams like a girl. No offense, girls. But he does. He sees a spider. Ah! I mean, it's just crazy, right? I mean, he got a spider web. If he gets a spider web, he's doing all this. And he just freaks out, like straight up freaks out. I'm like, son, come on, man. I taught you better than that. So, but here's the reality. Guess what? He's passed that on to his son. Me and Ken go out on the four-wheeler, and we go down my log roads, and we go through the woods, and I've got Ken in front of me, and I got my legs up on the thing where he can't go nowhere, and it never fails. We go down through those log roads, or I'll take him through the woods somewhere, and I'm always driving slow. He's a parent, see this. And we go through there, and if a spider web, we come across it, he gets on him, man, this kid freaks out. Pappy, pappy, spider, spider. And I mean, he's doing all this, and I have to stop, and I have to make sure that he is convinced that there's no spider on him. And then I get that web off. Why? Because he has visually seen that from his father. And he's seen that his father thinks that is bad. And it freaks that little boy out. So the visual image that he saw as a young child by his father was passed on to him. So we might want to participate in Halloween as adults because we have the freedom and conscience to understand the realities of the things that are going on. but sometimes we have to understand that the children do not comprehend things like you and I do.